All right. Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to episode number 56 of Freedom Matters Action Group. I'm your host, Krishna, and joining me as always, well, it's almost always, is the lovely Mrs. Teresa. How are you this evening?
I'm great. I paid $2.85 for gas the other day, so I'm doing better. It's not
Yeah,
over $4 anymore here in Texas, so
right. Yeah, that's definitely, something I've felt too, like, yeah, 285. And yeah, I mean, actually, I found out that was part of the provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, which is over 100 pages long. But one of the provisions is that they do allow and open up some new, like, oil and gas leases. So I think that was like a primary trigger for the lower reduction in prices. But of course, they're not still what they were under Donald Trump.
right, exactly. And what I read was it's basically supply and demand. So we're seeing a little bit less because during the
More easing up the
pandemic,
supply, yeah.
yeah, people weren't really driving, and
Oh,
so
right, yeah, less demand back
but
then, yeah.
but at the same time that doesn't make sense because people have started driving and maybe the maybe the supply and demand is actually greater now than it was back then. So that kind of didn't make sense to me, but they like to try to spin whatever's going on to make it sound good, but who knows really what's going on there.
Yeah, true, right, when they just redefine things out of existence, but that's not what we're gonna do, and we're gonna be very clear with, our show and, starting with our announcements. So, our FMAG Potluck is coming up this Sunday, February 18th, and it will be, in, Richmond at the Freedom Hall, convention, yep, and, I'm gonna share the banner for y'all so you can see it yourselves.
And that's going to
Uh
be 6 o'clock p.m. for that, correct?
I believe so. Oh no, 4 o'clock. Yeah, well, okay, 4 o'clock is when it starts, and then like the actual potluck, like the dinner and such and things of that nature will start at 6 o'clock. And yeah, this one will be pretty special because both Dan Mathews, who has been on our show running for District 76 as a state rep in Texas, as well as Trever Nehls, who's running to get rid of the god awful KP George, will be there. And the drinks will be free, as the banner says, and that's courtesy and thanks to Trever Nehls.
Yeah, that's a fantastic event. And so, for those of you in the audience who are watching and you don't know that FMAG actually is a group, we do meet usually once a month. The summer was a little bit less, but we usually meet and have a discussion. So anyone who's part of FMAG or wants to be a part of FMAG to get more information, feel free to come out. I believe you said it started at 4 o'clock on
Yeah,
Sunday, right?
is when the doors
And
open.
then
Yep.
we always follow that with a potluck where we're just kind of, you know, um, getting a feel for the community, getting to know each other, anyone who might be new to our group. So I would
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
come on out. If you're going to be with like minded people, if you like what we've been talking about on our show, or if you have conservative views, we do have people who have from all backgrounds and their political views, but generally we all do come together for the same efforts, which is freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness here in our country. So it's a really great event. I'm super happy that Dan Mathews and Trever Nehls are going to be there. Unfortunately, I will not be there because I have a church event that I'll be at, that I've already had a prior engagement to. But generally, I would be there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's really not too many greater feelings, if any, than being around like-minded folks, especially on these very critical, conservative, and liberty-based issues, for sure. So yeah, definitely do make it out there if you can.
Absolutely. It's been a saving grace for me for sure, because when you talk to people and you're
Ditto.
like, you kind of give your opinion about things when the mainstream media makes it seem like that's not really what everyone's thinking. And you're like, but I think that too. And they're like, no, I think that too. And you're really with like-minded people, and there are the majority of our country is like that. The majority of our country does not want what's actually happening or what they're trying to make happen in our country. So you're going to be with like-minded people and just come out and have a good time and enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Amen. And yeah, another new development that I definitely do want to share with folks is IACT, a brother organization to FMAG, Indian American Conservatives for Texas, IACT, has recently launched two big developments. First of all, their new MeWe page, which I have shared the link in the comments for folks. Yeah, so you can click the link there, and then also share their MeWe page. So they've got a MeWe page, and they also got a radio slot and had their first radio show yesterday on the Masala Radio Network. And so definitely do take a listen when you can. So I'm just flashing up what the MeWe page looks like when you uh, uh, do it yourself and open up the page on your account. And for those don't have a MeWe account already, please get it. I mean, they also IAC does also have a Facebook page, but we're promoting and encouraging MeWe because it's not a big tech deep state uh, social media platform. So join their MeWe page. You can join the Facebook one too, but use MeWe more and share the MeWe link and encourage your friends and family to get it. And don't fall, and please don't fall into the temptation of being too lazy to get a MeWe account. It's really not that hard. It's just as easy as getting a Facebook account. So rather than getting an Instagram and a Snapchat account, which is not going to add value to your life, get a MeWe instead.
Yeah, I agree. And I really like IACT. Actually, our event that we had a few weeks ago, the gala,
Yeah.
When we met Kash Patel, I was really impressed. The diversity that we saw when we were at that event. I mean, you had everybody from all different types of demographics, and all of those people live here and represent our community right here in Fort Bend County. So really excited to know more about and learn more about those who are representing IACT, and definitely check out that event because they are really helping the community. And I think that as their word spreads too, and throughout Fort Bend County, we're going to see some real progress and real changes in the ways that we want.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just actually sharing pictures on the MeWe
Yeah.
page of that gala that you're talking about.
That's fantastic. So a lot of the people that we endorse were actually at that event too. Trever Nehls was there.
Yep, as you saw in the picture. Yep.
Yeah, and I know that a couple of our board members were at that event as
Yeah,
well.
Bill Rickert. Yep, who's
Bill
been on our
Rickert
show.
was there as well as a county commissioner. So we're hoping that
Treasurer,
he gets reelected as well.
County
So-
treasurer for Bill,
County
I think?
treasurer, yeah.
Yeah.
County treasurer,
Indeed,
yeah. I know we were talking about commissioners with him, right? So
Indeed, yeah.
county treasurer.
No worries, yeah.
And speaking of, it is time to register to vote. If you have not registered to vote, you only have until October 11th to register to vote. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. I know we've shared Vote 411 before. There's another website that you can go to check. It's actually pretty good as well. And I know I've shared this before. It's votetexas.gov, and then / register to vote. And so I'm going to share that with you guys as well here.
Yeah, and I think you said the deadline is October 11th, so that's less than 30 days away. So if you really haven't registered to vote already, please go do it. Even if you got to stop watching the show now and do it, that's definitely worthwhile. Yeah, I mean, please also don't fall into the temptation to not do it because it takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of time. I mean, instead of watching CNN for 15 minutes, go out and register to vote. Or take some time over the weekend to do it. Luckily, there's still a little under 30 days, but no longer than that. So yeah, please do go out and register to vote.
I'd say if you're still watching CNN, we need to wait until they become a reputable news broadcasting system before, and you're going to make my heart palpitate here with people who are actually still watching that propaganda news network. So I would say get off of that CNN permanently. I know I still have some people that I know personally in my family who continue to get their news from CNN, but it's censored, narrow-minded thinking on that. And of course, they're not going to bring on conservative views unless they bring one, and then there's 5 people that attack that person. So it's definitely not something that I would recommend. But if you go to votetexas.gov, you can register. This website's pretty good too. Voter registration, what to do if voting in person. I don't recommend voting by mail. We don't do that as conservatives. We go in person, generally, unless you have a health reason, right?
Right.
Voters with disabilities, how to get involved. So there's all different types of resources here on this particular website. So start a new voter registration application here. Super easy. Everything's online. Additional information. So make sure that you are registered. Make sure that you go out and vote. Make sure you know who's on your ballot. Make sure you have done your research before. You have until November 8th to cast your vote. Of course, early voting starts a few weeks before that, or at least a week and a half before that. So make sure that you know who you're going to vote for. Don't wait until the day of and you're hoping that someone in the parking lot tells you who to vote for. So
yeah, maybe bottom line, please don't forget to register to vote. Maybe except for the Democrats. If you do forget to register to vote, it's probably not going to be the worst thing in the world, or it's probably not going to hurt our country or our civilization too much.
Right. And then the other thing, there is another event that's happening in Austin, the great city of Austin.
Right. Yeah.
And hopefully it becomes a better city with
Right.
the events
Like it
that
once
happen
used
like
to
this.
be. Yeah, like what it once used to be with the like whole keep Boston weird cultural vibe. But yeah, right. Certainly, it's not that today. But yeah, I mean that's all the more reason why events like this, like the Texas Faith, Family, and Freedom Forum, that's happening. Not this coming weekend, but the next. If you're either there, or if you can make it, it'd be a great event to go to help bring back the wholesome, cultural fabric of the city of Austin to help keep it weird again, I guess.
And if you want to know more about the host, that's Texas Values, you can go to texasvalues.org and you can learn more about that organization. And there are I believe there's 30 speakers. And so Ted Cruz will be there, Ken Paxton will be there. There's several people that, I mean, those are just a few that I've seen here.
Yeah, and then here are the like various like attendance prices. Like you can attend it from the live stream. Looks like it's $5, and general admission looks like $40, $100 to $130 for like the special like sponsor levels, and they're like I think looks like discounts for students, pastors, veterans, and things of that nature. So do check it out when you can. We'll also put it in the comments so you can click the link, and
Yep. And they're going to be talking about family values in public policy, including life, marriage, religious freedom, and human sexuality. Get ready to be educated, motivated, and activated to advance faith, family, and freedom right here in Texas, because that's what we want.
Right.
We value our families, we value our freedoms, and we value truth.
Right. Yep. And just like the FMAG Potluck, it's a great opportunity to meet and connect with like-minded folks.
Absolutely. And if you can't join and you want to donate, there was a tab at the bottom to donate to their cause. And it does cost money to reserve these convention places. So make sure you do that. The venues. So one good thing that I noticed just a few days ago, and I don't think that the mainstream media is even talking about it unless they're just trying to continue to bash Dr. Simone Gold. But Dr. Simone Gold, who was wrongly convicted of trespassing in the Capitol on January 6th, is now free. She ended up getting out 2 weeks early. And this is Dr. Simone Gold. She was one of the American frontline doctors, still is one of the American frontline doctors, coming out at the very beginning when we heard Dr. Stella Emanuel here locally.
Yep.
She's originally, Dr. Gold is originally from California, I believe, but she's a doctor and she's a lawyer. And so she's got the brains. And I have really, I really enjoyed a little presentation that she gave right here in Missouri City. I believe it was actually, I think it was technically Stafford, but it was really right around the corner from me. And she gave her a nice presentation about what she believed is going on with this whole pandemic. And I mean, she was early on telling truth. And if you look her up, Dr. Simone Gold, everything on the news is talking about how she was a conspirator and that she gave disinformation. So she was part of the disinformation dozen from our government, trying to dismiss all of her claims that hydroxychloroquine worked, that ivermectin worked, that there were actual treatments for COVID, that you didn't have to wait and then be admitted to the hospital, where most of the protocols that they give you cause death. And we saw that 84% of the people who were put on ventilators here in Texas died. And so she was out there trying to give truth, talking about the vaccines, talking about how dangerous they are. And we're starting to see a lot more of the dangers and the effects of these vaccines now. So this is Dr. Simone Gold right here. This is Dr. Stella Emanuel. She's a local
Yeah.
Houston.
Mhm.
And of course, they try to demonize her because she has like some personal beliefs that maybe not everyone would believe. I don't particularly agree with some of the things that she thinks, but I know
Right. Sure. Mhm.
she was one of the she was spearheading, basically saying, look, we can get rid of this pandemic in 30 days. Hydroxychloroquine works. I'm using it with patients when the hospitals weren't treating patients. They were hiding behind their masks and their suits and
Right. Exactly.
their
Yeah. The
not
gloves and
real,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they got fear mongered first, right? And so they were sold this fear mongering, and then they had to kind of pass it on to everybody else. But this, I mean, I was very lucky to have met her. I
Oh
donated
yeah.
to
Yeah. And
her
then
cause. And
and then that's the event and speech that you said she did in Stafford. Was that recently or was that like a little while ago?
that was last summer.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. So
And
summer of 2021, you're saying, not this. I guess we're still technically in summer, but it's almost over.
yeah, it was early summer, I believe, because I was out of it wasn't during the school year, but we were all worried back then that they were going to mandate the vaccines for children. And I was really worried about that because I had already learned of some of the dangers from Dr. Tenpenny, and
Yeah.
I did not want that. So she was just someone that I respect and learned a lot from, and read her book. And she basically kind of lays it out. It's not a vaccine, it's gene therapy, and that it hasn't been studied long enough. We are still in the trials of this
Yeah.
vaccine. Um, so she's definitely somebody that I listen to, and I would follow. And unfortunately, she had to plead guilty to trespassing at January 6th. And so basically, what
Because
she did,
otherwise, if she didn't plead guilty, she would have been forced to go to court in a kangaroo court, where she would have been at pretty much 100% risk of being convicted and sentenced to like long jail time, probably over 10 years. Like they might even try to put her in for life, knowing how corrupt and really tyrannical the DC court system is.
right? And she's smart. She's a lawyer, so she understands the
Yeah,
system.
for sure.
And
Yeah,
luckily, she was given a 60-day, and I believe she had to pay a certain amount of
yeah,
fines. And all she did was the same thing she's doing here in this video, which I'm not going to play because you could look it up.
yeah.
And I mean, this is one of her favorite speeches. This was the spring of 2020, and her and the other 11 doctors were out there on the Capitol talking about how this is not a pandemic, that COVID is treatable, and a lot of people weren't listening because the mainstream media
Right,
just kind of
right.
demonized them altogether.
Right. I mean,
And
she was
so,
yeah. I was going to say she was brilliant on the medical aspect of it that you just mentioned, but also on the legal aspect when she was strongly and rightfully coming out against the lockdown, saying that all these businesses like these restaurants and all these other retail venues that were being ordered to shut down by pretty much all the state governors, at least at some point in time. Maybe not. Okay, Christy, no, South Dakota's the one exception, but. That being said, she was pointing out how these restaurants and these businesses can't just have their licenses stripped like that. There's got to be like procedural hearings and court dates and that kind of thing before a license can be revoked. The governor just can't revoke it just because they're disobeying an emergency shutdown order, which is illegal in and of itself. So yeah, really, God bless her times infinity for coming out against all of that and enlightening the public about that. And fundamentally, it shows that the fact that she was put in prison for really bogus charges shows that the United States of America is really not a free country, and the reality is it is a dictatorship, and it's tyranny. And that's why us here at Freedom Matters Action Group are out here promoting freedom and liberty and trying to reverse it, as well as all the other righteous liberty activism groups. But really, until all the other prisoners, like all the other January 6th prisoners that were wrongfully incarcerated, are released, and especially without any penalties or having to plead guilty, like unfortunately Dr. Gold had to. I mean, there's no doubt or question that we still don't live in a free country and live in a dictatorship.
Right. She was videotaped in National Statuary Hall decrying government mandated lockdowns as she advocated people to avoid the COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm just so happy that she did her, I guess she had to do her time for walking into the building, which, as we have seen, I'm sure you've seen the videos as well, of police officers telling people that they can come in, just don't mess anything up. They can walk through the
Right.
Capitol. So she was standing there giving a speech, which
And
she
she
should have
technically
the
never
freedom to do,
right,
you
and she
know?
technically never went inside, keyword inside the building. She was always like outside of it, like outside like the steps and the
No,
archway and
she
that
was
kind of
inside.
oh, you're right. She did
Yeah,
go inside, but
she
still,
did.
yeah.
She was like in the foyer area.
Right,
Um,
right. But I mean, yeah,
like she
and
didn't go into the chamber where they were having the hearing for the electors, right?
right, right.
But she did go in. But I was looking up like how many people ended up getting charged with breaching the Capitol. It was 910 people have been charged, and
Right.
just I have to give credit here to um, is it Gomert? Yeah,
Louis
Representative Louis
Gohmert, yeah.
Gomert.
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
he did a really good job. I didn't get to see the video of it, but he presented Dr. Simone Gold with one of the flags that hung over the Capitol on the day
Yeah,
that she was
yeah.
there. So I thought that was a really nice gesture for her freedom fighting. And she's not going to give up. There's actually, I've shared it
And
before.
neither will we, yeah.
Yeah, we won't either. There's a lot of people like there's no going
Neither
back at
should
this
you,
point.
yeah.
No. Um, and when you have like the heart like Dr. Gold does, I mean, you're just not going to give up. You could tell when you meet her in person that she's not going to be the person to kind of step back and step aside. So yeah, she
Yeah,
did
she
her, I think 42 days, 44 days.
yeah.
And now I was really happy that she was able to get out for 2 weeks early. And
Yeah,
now
amen,
she
yeah.
can kind of move on with it. She's done with that. She doesn't have to be strung through the courts and lose all of her hard-earned money through the court system
Right,
and through
right,
the
yeah.
fines and the legal fees and all that. And now she can just keep going and pushing forward with her own agenda, which is to change the healthcare system as we know it. And I
Yeah,
know that
right.
she's done that. She's already started a healthcare organization, and where you can get your healthcare. I don't believe it's available here in Texas just yet, but I believe they started it in California and Florida. And so once that
Mm,
becomes a little bit more mainstream and available here in Texas, then we'll go ahead and share more of that information. But we've shared it before as well.
for sure, yeah. Yep, she's got a heart of gold, and probably more than that, actually.
Yeah, really, really happy for her. So the other thing we were going to talk about tonight is and I have to say, I do like Google products. I do like Google products, but
Yeah.
there there are several states that filed a lawsuit back in the summer of last year against Google for the antitrust laws, which basically means that they are trying to become a monopoly and do practices that would hurt smaller businesses trying to move up in the technology world. And
Yeah, right.
so,
Competing businesses, yeah.
yeah, and so there is a law against that. It's called the antitrust law, and there are several states. It started out with just a few states, and then more states have joined in the lawsuit. But we just found out recently that they were trying to get it dismissed, and a federal judge in New York City or New York, I'm not sure if it's New York City, but in New York
Probably New York State,
actually,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah, dismissed it. So it's actually a United States District Court, Southern District of New York. So it is
Oh,
New
so
York.
that is actually New York City area, but yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah. So this is the document. It's very long. It's like 92 pages. So
Yeah,
I'm
are you
not going
gonna
to read it. Don't worry.
okay, yeah.
I watch some podcasts where they just read the whole thing, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not. I don't have time for
Yeah,
that.
right,
Um,
right. Too
so
long, yeah.
let me pull that up.
Yeah, so about this, like, this is new to me. I mean, somewhat new to me. Like, so you in the lawsuit, like, what specific like actions are they saying Google is taking that's like unfairly hindering and precluding competition?
So here are the top 10 because I started reading through, and I'll show the actual document.
Okay,
This
yeah.
is just a Forbes article about it. They kind of broke it down. They read the 92 pages and then broke it down. So the first claim is that, of course, they're going to put a little bit of satire on it, but
Right, a little editorializing, yeah.
Google is an evil monopolist. So basically, that they're engaging in a wide variety of
Yeah,
conduct
totally.
that only
Yeah,
monopolists can accomplish. And the second thing that they're accused of
yeah.
is lying about how it uses consumer
Right.
data.
Mhm,
Okay.
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's algorithms too, right? In ad tech, Google is the pitcher, batter, and umpire all at the
Okay.
same time.
Yeah, this is definitely really big.
Yeah. So basically, that's saying that nearly all of today's online publishers depend on one company, Google, and that means that they are monopolizing. And there's laws against that here in our country. The fourth
Right.
reason is Google has monopoly power and abuses it. So what they're trying to say here is that their web ad tech stack. Let me read this to you. It abuses its power to suppress competition, harm consumers, and reduce innovation. And it's basically controlling the choke points between publishers and advertisers and extraction of monopoly profits. So they were trying to raise the prices of the ad so
Mhm.
that other smaller tech companies really couldn't compete. And so when you're a monopoly or you have the money to do so, and you can try to adjust and kick out the lower businesses or the businesses that are not so financially
Yeah, right.
monetizing from it, then you're going to have all of those. And they said that there were like 14 companies that no longer were able to sustain competitive rates because Google had manipulated it to where they couldn't pay, or they couldn't put the ads on their sites.
Right, right, yeah. Um, oh, okay, I thought you were gonna go through more of it, but,
Yeah, I am.
I oh, okay, yeah, go for it then, yeah.
So they said that blocking the DFP ad server from sharing ad inventory data with non-Google exchanges by buying tools, ensuring that AdX, Google's ad exchange, had priority access, right? I mean,
Yeah, mhm,
we
mhm.
could see that with their algorithms too. I mean, they're going to promote things at the top. Um, if you're paying more, you get your
Yeah,
ad
you get
first, right?
right, right, yeah.
Yeah. And so the next thing is Google manipulates ad auctions for its own benefit. Again, it's pretty much the same thing where they alleging here that Google does not run fair ad auctions, reducing price competition for purchasing ads to win business it would not otherwise have, and overrides publishers' base inventory prices that states say, and deceptively increases the amount advertisers must pay for impressions. So again, if you're a big business, you can afford the ads, then you're going to be, you're going to be able to sustain that. But if you're a small business and the ads keep going higher, you're not going to be able to do that. So they said that's really not allowing those other businesses to be competitive.
Okay, got it, yeah.
And then number 6, Google colluded with Facebook to kill header bidding.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through a little bit faster. Google's fees are much higher than competitors and are sometimes undisclosed. And then Google's ad server for large web publishers is a monopoly, controlling 85% of display ad inventory.
Yeah.
Google has a monopoly in the ad exchange market and has market power, but not monopoly on in-app ad mediation. So if you have, if you have the Google app, and they're gonna run the ads that they want to all throughout there. So they're basically saying that they are breaching antitrust laws, and so it's an antitrust lawsuit.
Okay, yeah. No, this is all like interesting stuff, and I do want to admit that I don't understand all the like specific dynamics of the business model, like the ad tech and the publishing and that kind of thing. I do on the like high level like aspect, and that's basically like how Google makes its money. It's not a free, search engine. But I mean, with all of this, like I know, like people will bring up the devil's advocate of that. Oh, well, Google's a private company, so it can charge whatever rates it wants to, for businesses to advertise on them. And if the like businesses that say they can't afford them don't want complain about it, they don't have to advertise on Google, or they can go to an alternative like search engine, which in and of itself would be a valid point. But we also have to consider that Google gets like at least, I think at least $1 billion of like funding of money from the federal government, which is money from the taxpayers. So by that sense, it's not a private company, and I would extend that to all companies, quote unquote, private companies that get any money from the federal government, because that's taxpayer money. So that doesn't really make you a fully private company. So I mean, yeah, I
And
think
isn't it true that Facebook gets money from the government as well,
yeah,
right?
absolutely,
And so
yes,
that's what
yes,
I know Trump was talking about that several times, about them breaching antitrust laws because of that, and that they shouldn't be covered by, what is the law? The protections that they have, because
the
they're
Section
not.
230, yeah,
There you go.
right,
That's it. The Section 230.
right.
That they shouldn't have protections of Section 230 because they have the funding from the government.
Right,
And
that, and then also like they do remove content, that they don't like, which doesn't make them legally by the standards of Section 230 a publisher, or versus no, that doesn't make them a platform versus a publisher. So a publisher does not get the protection of Section 230, whereas a platform does, in the sense that the platform can't be held liable for anything on that gets posted on their platform, but that means that they also cannot censor and remove things, because if they do censor and remove things, they become a publisher. Which then comes with the liability for like bad things that are on their platform. Of course, that doesn't get enforced in our corrupt law enforcement and court system. But I mean, yeah, that's how Section 230 is supposed to work. So I'm good. I'm glad that you brought that point up.
yeah, I mean, because if you were back in the 2020, anytime in 2020 around the election, of course, there's a lot of political stuff going back and forth, and a lot of the rhetoric, I was just like so over it. I was ready for November to be over and done with, and
Yeah,
it was like, all right, enough of this. But if you
yeah,
were out
right.
there trying to show videos of Biden and how he talks to his constituents, you would get
And not
banned.
just show
Or
of Hunter Biden and his laptop.
yeah, if you were trying to share the information that was real, that we now know for sure is legit, and we all knew that it was legit back then, because
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, a video is a video, unless you have some type of software and you're
Like deep faking
manipulating,
and
right?
stuff like
And
that. Yeah,
so,
right. Which usually like, only like very skilled professionals and and ones that have a lot of money can do. But that's more likely to be, the mainstream corporate media than it is just, some regular citizen.
right. Well, here is the document. It's the state of Texas with Alaska, Arkansas. Yep, I went too fast. Florida, Idaho, Indiana, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri. At first, it was only a couple, and then it was 11. Now I believe there's 16 total states.
And all and all of them
Mississippi,
happen to
Missouri,
be and all of them are red. That's not I don't think that's a coincidence. Oh, Nevada's on
Mon-
there. That's surprising.
Montana, yep, Nevada, North Dakota, Commonwealth of Puerto
Puerto Rico
Rico.
even. Wow.
I
Okay.
was kind of impressed with that one.
Hmm.
State of Carolina,
I mean, I
South,
was
South
surprised that Puerto
Carolina.
Rico can be on there because they're not a state. Huh.
Yeah, exactly. And
So I'm wondering
quite,
if like Guam and like the Virgin Islands can be on this too.
yeah, potentially. I
Or
mean,
Samoa. Yeah.
Google is worldwide, so I wouldn't see why internationally they couldn't, I guess it depends on what their laws are too, but I believe Puerto Rico, they still go by the federal government laws, even though they don't pay federal taxes there.
Right, and don't
Um,
have the right to vote, thankfully.
and they don't have, yeah. And the state of South Dakota, state of Utah. And so basically, let me go to page 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and did it say like, or did you see like, what their proposed solution to this would be, or like what sort of what the specific punishment that they are advocating for Google to face with all of this?
It doesn't. I did not look into the details of that because it's a 92-page document. But what they're complaining about is monopolizing. That's the whole gist of it. And this document was filed a few days ago because it was brought in front of a judge because Google was trying to get this case dismissed under,
Right, of
for
course,
different reasons, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now, one part of that was dismissed, but the other several reasons why they're being brought, why the states are bringing this lawsuit against them, several of those are still standing and need further investigation. And of course, they have to present both sides, so they're still going to be going through litigation. So basically, if you, and I'll share this link to this
Yeah.
PDF in our chat here, but basically, the alleged anti-competitive conduct supporting the monopolization and attempt to monopolize. That's basically the claims of the states, that they are trying to monopolize everything and then ruin other businesses trying to have a fair, I think there's like a fairness law, which would be your antitrust law, that prevents you from doing that in our country. So prevents you from trying to monopolize and control everything and manipulate the way that they are claiming Google is. And like I said, I do like Google's products, but I don't like how they're manipulating and how they're using our data and selling our data to market, to
Yeah,
make
right.
money. And so,
With and not being transparent about it. Yeah.
yeah. And
Well,
yeah,
I
the
mean, I guess like,
transparency of it.
I mean, maybe it's buried somewhere in their like terms and conditions, but that's like very bare minimum. It's like they could be like a lot more upfront about that and like, say it like, in plain language, like on their front page.
Hmm. So the gist of everything is right here. It says the states describe the complaint as cataloging a sweeping variety of anti-competitive conduct. They allege that Google has monopolized or attempted to monopolize various markets related to online display ads and unlawfully used its market's power to tie the sale of Google's ad server, a tool used by publishers to manage their inventory of display ads. So they're really trying to control everything, control the
Yeah.
price, manipulate everything so that they are number one. And I mean, it's not a bad business model, but if it's against the law, it's against the law. So,
Right, right. And I think also from the aspect of the fact that they've gotten so many millions, and I think actually billions of money from the government, I think disqualifies them as a private company. So when the devil's advocates can say, well, why are you interfering with the private company's rights and liberties to buy up other companies, even their competitors? Well, that's not something that can be legitimately argued, considering they've gotten billions of dollars of money, which they have not paid back, and gives them an unfair advantage to do that other companies have not been able to have.
right. And they also talk about the Sherman Antitrust Act cases. So they reference
Yeah,
some different. It's a good read. I read most of it. It's a good read, especially if you have a dictionary to look up most of the law jargon, or you kind of just learn some new things, some policies and laws that maybe you didn't really know
yeah,
existed. So,
and I
and
yeah.
yeah, so I found it pretty interesting. We'll see what happens with that lawsuit. I'm not sure if they're looking for just things to change with Google, or if they're looking for because these are several states, so I'm not sure if they're looking for monetization of any type. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, and I'd say like another important point to this, and perhaps even the most important, is that we the people have to do our part, not just the lawyers in this lawsuit, by minimizing, if not completely eliminating, our use of Google as a search engine, because that's what's made pretty much every company dependent and almost required to use Google for advertising, is because we, the people, use Google, and only a tiny fraction of us like actually seek out alternative search engines for which these companies can get advertising with more fair and better terms and conditions. So yeah, I mean, I definitely must say that we the people have to do our part, and myself included. I need to do a better part of using Google less and being more disciplined in using other search engines that don't spy on you, that don't collude with the government to rig our elections, that don't get a lot of billions of dollars of federal money, and then don't try to monopolize and destroy the market. So yeah, whether that's the free search engine or Yandex or any of these others, we the people need to do our part in actively and consciously using different search engines than Google.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember what happened with Parler from Amazon,
Right,
correct? They
right,
were
yeah.
completely deplatformed, basically ruined the company. I'm sure, I know that they're back online now, but basically what happened was Amazon didn't like their political viewpoint. And
Mhm.
so they basically were using, Parler was using Amazon for the
Web
foundation,
hosting, yeah. Mhm.
web hosting. And so they
Yeah,
bought their web hosting through Amazon. Amazon just canceled them. And so when you have monopolies like that who want to control information, they want to control things, you can't trust them. And that's why
right,
we
right.
do have laws that protect big companies from monopolizing. So I'm really happy and proud of Trever Nehls, who came out with
Yeah.
the new platform and Truth Social. It's not available still on the Google Play Store or the
Oh, what a
Google Play Store
surprise.
because they're still blocking it. They're still trying to go through, the hoops of getting it on there. Now you can go to Truth Social and you can sign up. It's web based as well, or if you
Yeah,
have an
that's probably a
Apple,
better way,
it's
yeah.
already on the Apple Store. But it is
Mhm.
another alternative to some of the other social media like Facebook and
Right, yeah.
Instagram, and you know you can find a lot of information. No one's going to be censored there. If and it's everyone from all political views, and it's all different types of information, not just political. But I know that Devin wants to get
Yeah.
into, and he's really was working with Kash Patel when they were working for President Trump. So what they really saw was this monopoly, and then this control of information, and so they came out with their own platform. And uh, I don't use social media as much as I used to, just because I'm
Yeah,
just,
ditto.
you know, it's just I try to find information and disseminate it myself. But other than that, I'm not really on too much. See family who
Yeah,
don't live
right.
close by, but I'm not really on there. I watched The Social Dilemma and realized that wow, there's a lot of truth that these people who created these platforms know, how information can be disseminated incorrectly or controlled by certain groups. So it's really important that
Right.
we don't
Yeah,
have those
for a
monopolies. And
specific nefarious agenda, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, the next topic, if you live in Harris County, you had a couple GOP commissioners that boycotted the recent budget meeting that was held a few days ago. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. And so I didn't realize this, but basically what they did was they not only stopped the current budget from happening, and that's why we need to know the roles of our local commissioners, right? We need to know what are they capable of, what can they do, how do they affect us on a day to day. So there's two GOP members of Harris County, and they boycotted the budget vote, which basically meant, and this was Jack Cagle and Tom Ramsey. They didn't show up to the meeting, so they couldn't vote. I guess
Oh,
I'm guessing
yeah,
they didn't
right,
have
right.
a quorum, which I'm sure was needed.
Right, as it
And
usually is, yeah.
so now what that means is not only does the current budget not pass, but they go based on a no new revenue rate, which means that it actually is reducing the taxes on people. Not sure of the percentage, but I do know that it was a cut of about $106 million, I believe.
Oh,
And
wow. Huh.
so, yeah, 106 million. And so now, and then, I mean, here's my thing with the budgets. Budgets continue to go up every single year, regardless if the need is there. So you have
Especially
a
in the blue
budget,
cities and states.
right? So I think it's time for people and organizations and leaders and political leaders to start prioritizing the necessities and then get rid of all the other bulk. Get rid of all the things that are not necessary. Make sure that
Right.
our police officers are paid. Make sure that
Yep.
crime, invest in crime reduction. And then go from there. All the extra programs and things like that can come after. You can also
If
reach
not
out
get one,
to
yeah.
nonprofit organizations to help, bridge any gaps that there might be. But I think that the two GOP members, what they really didn't want, they didn't want more burden on the people there. They already see the
Yeah,
inflation
right.
so high, they didn't want that burden for people. So
Yeah, amen. So yeah, hopefully they're able to get their act together and then yeah, like cut the things in the budget that really shouldn't be in there that can be much better done by the private sector, the free market, or as I like to say, the best way to phrase that, we the people.
right, exactly. Well, so it's really, again, like we talked about at the top of the show, make sure you get out and vote so that you can make your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen.
And I'm going to share that document before we get off of here so that you guys
Yeah.
can see that. But anything else? Any more information?
I think that can do it for tonight. Yeah, and we'll on that note though, we'll definitely have a lot more for next week's show. So definitely, please do join us for that. And yeah, I thank you all for tuning in and joining us tonight for this show as we do always. And you know, continue to promote freedom and liberty as in every way you can. And you know, stay vigilant and resilient.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, excellent. Yep. Good night, everybody. Cheers.